Welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero, helping military veterans and first responders transform their lives from the prayer room to the boardroom. I'm your host, Daniel Faust. You see what I go over and do. We are in the superhero battle room with John Krotec. And if I hack his name, he'll correct me in a second because that is my superpower when I am doing these shows. All right, he is a military man that has served his country and is now serving our community by providing freedom to heroes. So I'm going to bring him on the stage and he's going to share his inspiring story and more. Hey, John, do I have you?
Hey, Daniel, thanks for having me here. And you did fine with the name. Everything's good to go. Always grateful to be able to share some experience and stories with my fellow veterans. So it's been a couple of times we tried to get this to happen, but we're here now. So thank you.
Yeah, welcome to technology, man. I've dropped so many podcasts in the past 2 weeks. It is crazy. But we're going to get into dropping your content on our episode. So first, we're going to start out with what inspired you to join the military many moons or many moments ago?
Great question. It was quite a while ago. My father was an Army officer, and he basically inspired me. He came from a family with 7 children, 4 men, 3 girls, and they all served in the military. Pretty much during World War II, he was the baby of the family. I was an Army brat born in Stuttgart. He was a young first lieutenant over in Germany. And then my sister was born there. And I have another brother and sister as well. But he instilled love of country. And I felt like when the time was right, it was my duty to serve my country.
So there we go. Had that family tradition, had that connection, everything else. Mine was more running away from my family and finding a girl. We'll talk about that another time. So
that sounds like a good story, man.
It is. But you got to share it at the right time in the right place. So our next one, going further into the journey, how long were you in and when did you leave?
Well, I enlisted back eons ago, 1986. At that time, they had two-year, 3-year, and 4-year enlistments, and I opted for the 3-year enlistment. But the commitment was 8 years. You know, whatever active duty time you served, the rest of it was going to be in the IRR. Those of you who know that, it's the Ready Reserve. And so I did 3 years active duty and 5 years in the IRR. But actually, in between that, a year in the Army Reserve. So 8 years, 3 years active, 1 year active Army Reserve, and 4 years in the IRR. I left in 1989, and then I think I've got my, honorable discharge in 94, something like that.
Man, that was many moons ago. That was like President Clinton and everything else, and you were getting out between like Reagan and Clinton on the whole span. So how did you make that transformation? Because the economy was good, but for veterans, at least when I met veterans in the 90s, it was very, very difficult. So was it difficult for you? Did you make a transformation real easy, or was it kind of a journey for you?
I pretty much can adapt to any environment that I find myself in. That being said, there were literally virtually no services for any veterans at that time in 1989. You were pretty much on your own. It was actually kind of cool every time I'd run into a veteran, to be able to speak the talk, veteran talk, military talk. And so, but, we were all kind of like men and women out here on islands, making a go of it and just trying to get back into the world, into the civilian world. Like I said, I adapted and overcame, and it wasn't that bad of a transition for me. What I did use was my Army College Fund, but that quickly ran out. I was working on a master's degree through American University, and I waited too long. I had a 10-year window to do it, so I waited until the last minute, and those funds ran out. So I was like 15 hours short of a master's degree. I was kind of a different animal anyways. I went in with a college degree, and everybody was telling me, you need to go in as an officer. And, they wanted to give me a direct commission into the food service, which was what my major was in college, which was, food and beverage management, hotel management. And I was done with that. So I opted for being an enlisted soldier, went in as an E3 in the Army, in the NBC, Nuclear Biological Chemical Corps. So it was something new. I rose in rank real quick, and I was a little bit older than the average Joe going in. So I don't know. I've always seemed to pretty much adapt to wherever I've been. Transition was pretty easy.
So it sounds like with the military background as a mill kid and then already set for college and everything else, it was like it was a pretty easy transformation. So what made you pivot to your current community? Because you are serving in multiple modalities and always super busy. That's why I think it also took us so long to reconnect on this interview. So what made you start serving our community and also your current community?
Well, great question, Daniel. Give back is what it's all about. And I always, I always was hoping that I don't know, this might sound awkward, but I was hoping that I might get combat. And a combat soldier told me one time, thank God you didn't, because there's there's not the glory that you think that there is. But I just have always been supportive of the military because of my background. And I just wanted to, being a little older than the average Jane or Joel coming out, I always wanted to give my experiences um, and my wisdom that I've learned in my life back to the community. And of course, as we grow and as we gain more experience and more wisdom, things are constantly changing. We're serving a lot of different communities now, not only the veteran community, but we're also serving the sexual assault community, and we're serving the music community. So we're doing a lot of different things, and we're on another project now that quite literally, Daniel, has the potential of being a paradigm shifting company in the field of information analysis. So, me, I'm always looking for something to do. I like to improve things, find solutions. A lot of people talk about things and they never really do things. And one of the things we're trying to do now, this last decade, is to traverse the online digital world, which has been quite the challenge for somebody that's old school and likes to build relationships based on trust. And we don't see a lot of that now these days. It's pretty interesting out there.
I say it sure is. It has changed drastically. We're in a couple days from when TikTok pretty much goes away, January 19th, unless the SCOTUS comes in. You have hundreds now of platforms, from Truth Social to Faithia. That's the newest one that I've looked at, and everything else. So trying to build community has been very interesting. And then if you're trying to take the digital and fuse it with the physical, it seems experiential is the way. Would you think that is true?
Absolutely. We're living in an age, and this is a heavy understatement. We're living in the age of information. Information has always been out there, but we're living in an age now where we're bombarded 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year from multiple platforms, multiple sources, to include social media, mainstream media, news outlets, podcasts, talk shows, television shows, everywhere. We're constantly being bombarded with information. And interestingly enough, most of that information is unreliable. There's ways to, that's what I said earlier, that we're moving on to information analysis. And when you have a lot of unreliable information, you have a lot of mistrust, you have a lot of distrust, you have a lot of anger, you have a lot of frustration. And what we're seeing is that this isn't just a United States issue. This is a global problem right now. There's a real frustration with online, with the digital world, the World Wide Web. But there's also a lot of people having difficulties finding strategic partners to actually work with in their business, creating networks with people they can trust. And trust is the very foundation of any relationship, whether it's business or personal. So we are in an interesting time. And what we're always trying to do is try to find solutions to overcome the challenges that we're faced with. Yeah, it's fun.
No, I 100% agree on that. I've had to learn. I've done some digital ventures. I used to be in digital TV and everything else, and now I'm doing my own thing. And I've worked joint ventures and everything else. And even sometimes when you try to do things, because of the information age, because of the expedited team page, because of the information overload sometimes, is that you want to do this and fuse together. But what happens is that it divides. I mean, I've had recently, I won't go into specific details, but I had two groups I worked with and I thought things were going great, did all my stuff, was trying to do the best I can, and it kind of flopped. And I'm now trying to rebuild back trust based on perceptions. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm willing to do this to rebuild trust, even though I'm not 100% at fault. But that's the thing about military and leadership is like, hey, if you're the forefront charge, I think that's one of the biggest things is that in the digital form is that we need to be consistent no matter where we're at. It's like if I see you on a podcast or interviewing, I'm Daniel Faust. If you meet me at the Military Influencer Conference, I'm Daniel Faust. If you're working some with me, I'm Daniel Faust, and my life is transparent. So there's no real difference at my house. I might just be more direct and more vulnerable in the bedroom and definitely in the prayer room than I am in the boardroom. And I think that's going to fuse that bond together. And speaking of that, you have gone through a lot. You've gone through a lot of transformations. You have joined multiple ventures, even did a TEDx talk as we were talking off stage in a bar. And there's a lot of pressure, especially in a 2025 world. What is your secret fuel when that pressure and that tough times come?
My secret fuels is spiritual. I rely on God. Nowadays people are getting censored for that. And I just know that I'm never alone. And so if you have that kind of camaraderie or that cohort or that partner, you can overcome anything. And so that would probably be, and just a self-reliance, knowing that no matter what, there's light at the end of the tunnel. The sun is always going to come up the next day. There's people that have it a lot worse than you have it or we have it. And just be grateful. So maybe gratitude in God or God in gratitude, that's the secret fuel. And, it's easy to say now at my age, there's a lot of times when I was younger, it was like, where is God? And I'm grateful for this mistake I made, but if you just persevere and you just keep going. I had a billionaire one time when I was at one of the lowest points in my life. In fact, his family used to own the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we were friends. And when I was going through some really rough times, he said, John, I know you. I know who you are. And he said two words that stuck in my head: keep going. Just get up, with as hard and as challenging as it might be. Keep going. Don't give up. Hang on to your dream. Have hope. Have faith. Everything always works out. And 99% of the time, that's just a statistic, but 99% of the time, what you think is going to happen, the worst thing is probably not going to happen. And you'll learn from whatever or wherever you're at. You're going to learn something. And as long as you just continue to learn and keep your mind open, you're going to make it. I don't care what sector you're in, what you're doing, what your profession is, you're going to make it. It's going to happen. We hear it all the time. Never quit. Keep going. When the chips are down, what is it that when the tough get down, whatever it is, I'm losing my mind, but just gratitude in God.
Well, we know we won't be censored here because our entire show is from the prayer room to the boardroom. So we can talk about God anytime and we won't be censoring. YouTube might censor us, but we won't censor the message.
And they have. So, yeah.
So that's the thing, and those are the types of things that we are blessed to go over and to have. And I'm thankful that you shared that. Now into our last question. We don't give this to our members unless they watch our show. So this one might be new for you and this one might throw you for a loop, but we ask each of our people at the end of the show. It's like one of our last questions before we give the floor is 3 superhero tactics. Either thinking of yourself as that young E4 mafia 40 plus years ago, or thinking of yourself as you're working with clients, going over and providing freedom to them. What would you give them if you only had like an elevator pitch, like 90 seconds, 3 superhero tactics so they can go from a surviving to a thriving mentality?
Absolutely. Focus. Don't spread yourself too thin. Set your priorities and focus. Also, build solid networks, people networks. And be nice to everybody. You never know when that person might come back around, or when you might need to rely on that person's knowledge or information. So build every relationship in a trusting, genuine way, and then execute. Just execute. We've heard this. Get off the X. There's so many ways to say it. Don't just talk about it. Make those calls that you need to make. Make those relationships you need to make. Adapt and overcome. You're going to make mistakes. So focus, build solid networks, and execute. Those would be the 3 superhero tactics. And rely on the experts. We don't know it all. There was a time in my life, like you said, when I was in E4, I thought I knew it all. But boy, could I tap into those E7s for information. So reach out to people for information, or do your research. Give it some due diligence. Hop on the computer and go to the library. If it's something that you want to learn, rely on the experts. That would be it. Focus, build solid, trusting networks, and execute.
Awesome. So, John, thank you for the wisdom, really quick wisdom, and a lot of wisdom, all in less than 20 minutes. So I want to thank you for going over and joining us. We finally got connected, everything else. So I'm going to give you the floor one more time. So if you want to talk about Freedom Zone, maybe some next projects that you're going doing, close us with a quote. But after that, we're going to go close out the credits. So thank you for joining on this podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for giving me the floor, Daniel. I appreciate it. Green Zone Hero, which we started 8 years ago, got rebranded to Freedom Zone Hero. It's a business network of businesses that have no problem publicly saying what their core values are. I also got my poetic website, John T. Krotec, and we do some things. It's not all about poetry. It's about overcoming and adapting and finding the people that you can resonate with and helping them to improve their lives. And then our newest work that we're working on is we have created, this is kind of cool. You might like this. We've created a little handbook. It's called the Sentinel Handbook. We've got it in 3 languages now. It's really, with no disrespect, it's written for an 8th grader. And what it really is, it's an information analysis process coupled with a gender role component. Well, what's that mean? That sounds heavy. It's basically the grassroots or foundation to be able to analyze all the information. We talk about the 6 different types of information: misinformation, disinformation, all the way to AI information, noisy information. And then we give you a process for you to be able to determine and find a way to find out what's reliable and what's not reliable. And unreliable information is destroying families. It's destroying the planet, quite honestly. And so if men don't start stepping up and take on the roles that they were meant to do, which is to protect their loved ones from threats, there's no more, saber-toothed tigers and mastodons. The threats now are information. And all of this disinformation or unreliable information is geared to destroy the family unit, which, by the way, is how the human species carries on. The greatest gift that we have is our children, and we have to be able to empower them to be able to analyze information, go back to scientific method, Socratic method, and then be able to separate reliable information, the truth, from fantasy. All you have to do is look around today and see that there's some real issues. So that website is neomasculinity.com. No, I'm sorry, .solutions. It's a new nomenclature. So it's neomasculinity.solutions. Check it out. What we're doing is we're trying to empower men. Men have been emasculated for a while now. And we're trying to empower men and give them tools to be men again. And that will not only empower those people to protect their families, it will also empower women to fulfill their gender roles and help our kids to be able to face the world as we move forward. We're real excited about that. We've got some really interesting partners involved in that. You're going to see us with we have Spanish and German and English right now, but we're working on 7 more languages. And by May 1st, we hope to have our little handbook printed in 100 different languages. It's $2.95. It's just an ebook, but it can help. And that's what we want to do. We want to turn this war of information around, and it's hurting people all over the planet. That's another project. Then we're working on a music project called One Drop. One drop of music stops the tears, and we're working with some big named artists. You'll see that pretty soon, where we give lessons to people that have been traumatized and abused, trafficked. It's all about overcoming the challenges through music. So you'll be hearing about One Drop pretty soon. It's going to happen this year. We're working with some really fine people on that project, some artists that you've probably heard of, and but I can't let the cat out of the bag on that. So that's where we're at right now. We're constantly looking for solutions to the challenges. And as you know, Daniel, we've talked about this. Everybody talks about the issues, but we're really trying to give solutions for the issues. And that's what we don't see. Everybody's in it for likes and shares and to be an influencer and all of this stuff. And it's all great for sensationalism, but what's the real value? If all we want to do is be entertained, just buy a box set of Red Skelton DVDs and stay at home. We want the truth. People deserve the truth. And if you're a news network out there putting out pure propaganda, you're not doing anything to help anybody but your ratings and your advertisers. So think about it. What's more important? Likes, shares, relationships, solutions, or revenues? You need to figure it out for yourself. But if you are honest and you think about what it is you're doing in your life, you want to give value. Always give value. Don't add to the division. Lord knows we have enough of that. But add something that will help bring people together, or will help people to fix their challenges, overcome their problems, whether it's in business or in their personal life. I got to tell you, man, I was hit by a car last November, a year ago, 2023. I was walking through the parking lot, and some guy backed up while he was texting and knocked me down and broke my tibia. He had no insurance. He was not an American. We will leave it at that. And I had to go through 10 weeks of being immobilized, not being able to put any weight on it. I had a 9-inch titanium plate put in my knee, and then I had to take it back out a year later. And during that downtime, it gave me an opportunity to think about really what's important. And that's what you need to think about. What's really important to you? Be a leader. Don't follow the pack. Be the leader of the pack. Create solutions. Don't add to the problems. And, I could sit here and probably ramble on all night. These are things that most of you have already heard. Just be you. Be original. Be creative. Don't take no for an answer. If you've got a great idea that can be of great value, whether it's a product or a service, just keep going. Don't listen to the riffraff. You know what you need to do. Just do it. Get off the X and do it. I'm just so pleased and so grateful to just even be here and to have my leg and to be walking. And I know that there's people that are a lot worse off than I am. I just try to maintain a positive mindset, on all these things we've talked about and I'm sharing are things that you've heard, intuitively what you need to do, and you can do it. Take advice, listen to people, but go with what's in your heart, go with what's in your head, build your plan, and just live the best life that you can every single day.